You know what we haven't done in a while? Like a while. We haven't talked about money. And, I was planning out these episodes. I plan them out for the year. I have a general idea of where I want to take our podcast journey through the year. But I did a pit stop recently and was like, it's time to have a money chat, I think. Don't you think? And this is inspired by just conversations I've been having recently with a lot of business owners, a lot of misconceptions, a lot of frustrations, a lot of just confusion, overwhelm, anxiety. I want to clear the air for you. I want to help you out. So today, we're going to talk a little money, honey. At the end of the day, money is a tool. And as a business owner, I would argue clarity comes from the knowing. And you don't know if you don't face it. And as I'm recording this in real time, it's tax season. Taxes aren't due quite yet, but if you're not thinking about it, most businesses are or should be. I just noticed some patterns that come up with money stuff. So I thought I would talk about it from my vantage point as a business coach. I also want to add some context here. I am a business coach. I studied entrepreneurship in college. So though I am not a CPA by any means, I have like a pretty good baseline understanding of business finance. And if you listen to the episode with Matt, my husband, a few weeks ago, he also does too. Money is something we talk about a lot. And I thought I would just break down some simple things to help you better understand what's going on, and also some tough love, because I think at the end of the day, we as business owners, there's no crash course on this. Even me with a bachelor's degree in business, entrepreneurship, which is what I do for a living. Even with all of that, I find there's so many things when it comes to actually having a business and dealing with finances that go missed or get glossed over. So I want to help clear the air for you. And it starts with this. You need to know what's going on. My tough love to you. I love you. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for listening. You need to understand what's going on with your money. And if you don't, it's on you to figure it out. But if you're working with professionals, they should be helping you too. So if I were to summarize this episode into that little phrase, that would be it. This comes from a place of love. And at the end of the day, just because you are a new business with just a couple $1,000s coming in for the year, or if you're in the multi-million revenue mark or beyond, you need to know what's going on. And I've seen people in every single chapter have issues. The more money you make does not mean those money problems disappear. So here are 4 things that you as a business owner need to get. You need to understand it's not sexy, and it's on you, my friend. It's on you. But that's also should be reassuring that if maybe you're working with some professionals, CPAs, financial advisors, bookkeepers that are not your jam, guess what? You can find other ones. So anyways, without further ado, let's jump right into this episode. 4 things you as a business owner need to understand about your finances. Starting with number 1. You need to know, and this is shocking to me. I'm sharing this because people don't know. People literally don't know this. They don't sit and look at it. And the reality is it's happening every month, whether you realize it or not. What people don't know is they don't know personally how much they need to make to meet their needs / goals. Needs, that's like food on the table. That's like the student loan. Remember how those are due for some people? It's those. It's your car payment. It's insurance. It's credit card payments. It's all of that. Baseline, how much do you need to make to live your life? And I would argue, what are your personal financial goals? If you have debt, maybe you're in a position where you're trying to pay it off. What does that look like? If you are a business owner, guess what, my friend? Retirement doesn't just happen to us as business owners. That involves some strategy and some goals as well. And I would argue if you're listening to this and you're relying on that corporate job you had 5 to 7 years ago to take care of your retirement, that might not be enough. I am not a financial advisor. Just saying, as a human being, that's not a plan. If you're relying on your partner's finances and goals and their retirement to float you, have you had a conversation about that? Are you clear and aware of how much they're coming in? All I'm saying with the personal stuff is this: get clear, come up with some goals, come up with a plan. Again, the debt thing, if you're paying off some stuff, what's that look like? Realistically, how much are you going to need to pay a month to get towards that goal? So many business owners start with a business and then work backwards, and they never tap into those goals or ever set them, and they wonder why they don't have a retirement. They wonder why they're still in debt personally. You have to start with you first. It's the whole analogy on the plane, when the air thing comes on. My mom's going to kill me for not knowing what these things are called, but like the oxygen mask. Mom, be proud. The oxygen mask. When those come down, there's a reason they tell you to put yours on first. This is the same thing, but in your money situation within your business. So what oxygen mask are you putting on for yourself first? I actually, transparently, this is something that I struggled to do when my business finances were tighter. I avoided it like the plague, and I think it's because I knew it wasn't good, but I didn't want to face it. And if you're in that boat, you are the person who definitely should face it. Because as I've said in previous episodes, the knowing brings you peace. So if you at least knew, okay, yeah, I need to take home about $5,000 a month, like to meet the needs with my loans, with my credit card, with where we want to go personally. That's how much I need to make. Guess what? Then we can reverse engineer and we can figure out how much the business has to make to get there. And even if you're not where you need to be, it gives you the clarity of where that gap is, and we can do something with that. The whole point of money is this: it's a tool to help you make decisions. So if you haven't faced your personal shit, pause this and go do that. And if you have a partner, if you have a business partner, a life partner, if you're married, have that conversation with them too, because you need to be on the same page and where your business fits into that conversation. Number 2, as a business owner, you need to know how much, this is also crazy because so many business owners I know, even the big multi-million-dollar ones and beyond, don't know this either. How much does your business have to bring in to cover your bases, your bills? And if you don't know the answer to that question, you need to find a way to figure it out. And guess what? Doing your year-end tax return doesn't really tell you with clarity what's happening in the day-to-day in the moment. So if you don't know that and you're listening to this and you're like, well, my CPA doesn't really give me anything, it's on you to ask. And if that's something that you can't figure out looking at your own bank accounts, if you need a professional to help you understand that, what if you found one that specialized in that? I know personally a few where they specialize in the strategy side of finances. There's a lot of different types of support in the finance world. You have financial advisors who literally handle your money. They help with retirement. They take your money, they invest it for you, knowing your goals. They work alongside you. You have CPAs and EAs, and they work with your taxes and making sure you're up to code with all of that. You have bookkeepers. They make sure the money that you have spent is allocated to the right places. You have financial coaches who don't touch your money but give you guidance on what to do. There's so many options out there to support you, which is great. But at the end of the day, you have to understand. And if you don't understand, that's on you to find yourself the right person to be your ally in this world, if that is something that is outside of your wheelhouse. I print off my finances every month, and I do a little money date. It's the end of the month, and I look at what money came in, what money went out, what percentage. I love that question. What percentage of my money that came in went to costs? That is important to me because I want to keep my costs low. And if there's little things contributing over time, I want to pay attention to that and be like, wait, what is that going to? What's the ROI? What am I getting from that? If I'm paying to go on a business retreat, I'm going to make a note. How did my business look after going to that retreat? So you can see how the money stuff can be a tool within your business, right? It shouldn't be shameful. It shouldn't be embarrassing. But at the end of the day, you got to know what's going on. So business budget, a personal budget, that's point 1. A business budget, that's point 2. And I would also wrap up in that some business goals. Whether if you want to get to a place of hiring someone. One of my clients is at that position where they're wanting to hire full time. And so we did the math. Realistically, how much would it cost her business to afford that person? And then we divided it up per month. How much a month would that cost be? And then thinking of that and taxes and all those other things, it gave a lot of clarity to know what is the baseline the business has to be. So I encourage you, if you don't have a business budget, or at least the awareness to know, like, in order to just cover everything, here's where I got to be, You need to sit and create that. And again, if that means sending a email to your accountant, do it. Sorry, accountants, if you're listening. You're probably not listening to this because it's tax season and you're all busy, but you work for your clients. If you're not equipping them with that information, and if they are completely lost in not understanding what's going on in their business, either meet with them and help them understand, or pass them along to someone who is going to take the time to do that. So that's my 2 cents on accounting. Number 3 is this. Just kidding. We're not done with accounting. We're going to talk about taxes for a second. We all pay them. When you make money, when you're profitable, you pay taxes. When you employ yourself, you pay taxes personally and as a business. What if you could know, not maybe to the penny, but if you had a rough idea how much to set aside each month for it? Wouldn't that give you some peace? I think so many business owners know in the back of their mind that it's just like this collecting thing, and taxes come due. And if you're listening in real time, that season is coming, but they come due and you're like, shit, I didn't save for that. And then I put everything on a payment plan, or you file for an extension over and over and over and over again. You're avoiding a very important part of business. And I would encourage you to create some process to set money aside for your taxes, to chip away at that, whether that's paying quarterly. And again, I am not an accountant. I am not a financial advisor, but there's ways where you can have an idea. There's some math equations you can plug in when you know your budget, when you know how much is coming in and going out. There's some ways you can calculate an estimate, if you will, of how much will be due for taxes. And I encourage you to do that. Worst case, you set too much aside and then you have a little extra at the end of the year. Or maybe if you're a little under, at least you've chipped away and it's not a big giant lump sum. But if you're unaware of what your taxes look like, of how much it should be each month, of when you should pay, go talk to a professional, please. And if you have a professional and they're not sharing that information with you, ask them. And then if they don't, maybe see about finding another one. No matter how big your business is, this is a thing that you have to understand. And the bigger your business, the more complex the taxes change and they evolve. And if you are making business decisions off of, I don't know, sales tax that clients are paying, that eventually you have to go around and give back to the government because that's how that works, that's a scary place to be. At the end of this episode, I want you to be so crystal clear on your money situation that you know, oh my gosh, what if I just had to do 2 more haircuts? What if I just had to sign 1 more coaching client? What if I just had to save an extra $2,000 and then I can hire that person in the summer? Like, the more we can be really clear with our money situation, it will help equip us in making great decisions in business with clarity. It'll also help us make changes. You know, my costs are consistently 30, 40%. That feels a little high. I'm going to see if I can trim some stuff down and see if that helps out. Money should help you make decisions. All right, number 4, as a business owner, things that you need to understand about your finances. You need to be radically honest about what season financially you are really in. There are so many people who need to just pull up a cup of coffee, sit down, take a couple deep breaths, and hear this one more time. You need to be honest of what financial season you are in your business. Maybe you're in a season where you need to button up your personal spending to grow. If we're going to be real honest, you're paying yourself too much. You're getting your nails done, your lashes done. And I'm sorry, my SD friends, if you're like, no, Kelsey, you're talking to my clients here. If you are investing too much in your personal looks or life or day to day at the expense of your long-term business goals, you have no one to blame but yourself. And if that's the season you're in, it's time to make some changes. It doesn't mean it has to be forever. And I'm not saying to go out on a top ramen diet and starve yourself. That is not what I'm saying. But I think we all can be honest with ourselves. Within business, there's different seasons, and some of us just might be in that season. I have been there before where I needed to be like, you know what? I am going to deposit some of my personal money and time back into my business, meaning I just didn't pay myself as much because I want to grow this thing and I believe in it. And I know what it takes to get from where I'm at today to where I want to go long term is me getting more clients, growing my clientele, selling more products, selling more offers, selling more retreats, but whatever the thing is you do, maybe you're in a season where you really need to focus on that. And that means making some changes personally. Maybe you get creative. Maybe date night right now is like going to a fancy dinner every week. Maybe date night for this season that you're in right now changes to going to Walmart. That's actually, Matt and I used to do that. We would go to Walmart, we'd pick out a $5 DVD from the bin and get our favorite snacks and have a movie night. And it was awesome. And we would walk around and just like look at funny stuff. And I think there's just seasons in business where that's the reality, and that's okay. But be honest of your goals. Where are you headed and why? And if it means that little personal sacrifice for the meantime, it's time to do that. And it's okay. And if you're around people who don't understand that or respect that, I would encourage you to be around community of business owners, because business owners get it. We always eat last. If you're really in this, you put yourself last, probably to a fault. I would argue I do that sometimes. I get that. But at the end of the day, like, this is my hill. This is the hill I will die on. I believe so wholeheartedly in what I'm doing in my business that I will do whatever I have to personally in order to get there. Now, I don't want to burn out. That's not what I'm saying to do, but be realistic of what financial season you are in your business. Number 2, be radically honest about your business spending. So I see one of two things happen so much. Like, majority of my clients have struggled with this at one point in their life. It's one of these two things. Number 1, they overspend personally. That's the person who treat yourself. They're getting Starbucks every day. They nails done, lashes done, spray tan, hair done all the time. And their business is like owing taxes to the government. Like, they can't even cover basic business expenses, but they're doing all this stuff personally. I see that happen. And number 2, I see that complete opposite happen. Business is growing. It's thriving. It's super successful, and they just keep reinvesting back into the business, and they're not paying themselves personally, or very minimally personally. Back to understanding your personal goals. I understand there may be times where that makes sense, but if you keep doing that and that is your business strategy, it's going to suffer. And the person in camp 2 who's continually reinvesting in the business tends to be the person who's not making long-term decisions. They're not looking at the bigger scope of where they want to take their business and why. And the other thing is they're screwing their personal goal potentially. That didn't make sense, but you know what I mean. If your personal goals, if you want to own multiple properties, if you want to retire early, but you just keep paying yourself minimum wage within your business and you invest it all into your business, there's some factors that might affect your personal goals. So just be honest about that and realistic about it. Be honest about what season you're in. And number 3 within that season question is, maybe you're so deep not knowing what's going on that you don't even know where to start. And this is the one that just breaks my heart the most. It's the business owner who trusted their accountant, and the money stuff is overwhelming, so they just hired a professional and they gave them the keys to the car, and now they're in a situation where they're struggling to pay bills, or they owe taxes, or they can't buy new equipment, or they can't buy product they literally need to do their job. They're struggling. The money just disappears so quick. I hear you, and I understand money could for you be overwhelming. But if you don't have a way to know what's going on, you are doing a huge disservice to your business. And guess what? If you're a business owner, you have to understand the money stuff. None of us are big enough to have a C-suite in our business. That's just realistically, that's not happening. We're small business owners. And small business, by the way, goes up to the multi-millions. That's still considered a small business. You don't have a full-time CFO combing through all your numbers, telling you what that means, setting a budget, setting projections. You need to have some basic understanding of how much money is coming in, how much is going out, and are you able to obtain and get to the goals you have set for your company. And if you don't understand that right now, please take the time today to either have some hard conversations with your people or find a new professional who can help support you, because it is not an excuse to say, oh, I thought my accountant was just handling all of it. Yes, they're filing your taxes if they're doing their job, but if you don't understand your financial situation, that's on you. That's not on them. That's on you. You have to find a way to make sense of it. Whether it doesn't have to be fancy. It could be an Excel spreadsheet. It could be at the end of the month, adding up, looking at your bank statements. How much money came in? How much money went out? Where am I at? If you're someone who got PPP funding, I'm going to call you out real quick because I had a business during that time. The PPP, COVID, all the financial help that happened during that season gave a false reality. Because here's what happened. A lot of businesses had to close. And even if you didn't close, a lot of businesses were able to get some funding. And that funding was a cash injection. And what happened is a lot of those people would use that cash for payroll, for people, for costs, to buy that equipment that finally failed. And what it did is it gave this false sense of increased sales. More people bought the product or the services. And not many business owners that I have talked to who got that funding have stopped and come up with a strategy, a financial strategy to say, hey, but what has happened since then? Are my sales actually continuing to grow? Have my costs grown? If my sales are not growing, why are my costs going up? Are my team members as proactive, productive as they can be? Have we raised prices to match up with inflation? I think all these things come into question, and it starts with just acknowledging it and looking it in the face and the awareness around it. So if you are working with an accountant or an EA and you don't have that financial clarity, I would definitely start with just asking and keep asking. Keep asking, because you need to know what's going on. And you need to have a way to know what's going on, whether that's a monthly meeting or a report they send, that not only just sending you a P&L and a balance sheet, but in a way where it makes sense in your mind and it's accurate to what's in the bank. If there's a gap between the two and you get a report every month and you just stare at it and you do nothing with it, we got to find another process. And this is something I feel so passionately about, because I think so many business owners feel like they're just like out alone at sea with this stuff. And so they just avoid it. And as long as things are good enough, as long as bills are paid-ish and they're not having to dip into savings too often, they feel like they're fine. If you have big goals and dreams, that attitude, that mindset, that strategy isn't going to get you there. You need to know what's going on with your numbers, and you need to find a way to understand. And that starts with talking to your people who, by the way, work for you. So I want to share 3 things to remember with all this money stuff. And again, this comes from like a very passionate place where I want you to get clear on this. I want you to understand it. I want you to feel confident. I want you to go crush and achieve your goals. And I think this money equation is just so important right now. So please don't take this as an attack on you. Please take this as a loving just nudge to figure this out for you. But I want to leave you with 3 things to remember in all of this. Number 1, understanding your finances allows you to make decisions. When I think of my business, and I actually have talked about this before a couple different times, but when I think of my business, at the end of the day, in the beginning, I just wanted to make sure my basic needs were met. My goals were pretty simple. And then I got to a place where I had a specific revenue that I wanted to make, and I made that goal. But now I'm to a place where personally, we have big goals. And in order to hit those personal goals, which means I need to pay myself more, I need to hit some big business goals. And so my priorities, the financial season I am in, has shifted. And therefore my strategy and my business has shifted with it. I'm really clear on that. And I think I know how to make decisions. And some decisions means, you know what, even though I'd love to go on that mastermind retreat, which I literally almost bought, I didn't, because my personal goals are bigger than that. And the needs of my business are different than that. So use the money awareness, the financial awareness and know-how as a tool to make decisions in your business. Number 2 thing I want you to remember is this. Just because you bring in more money doesn't mean your money problems disappear. I would argue if you are listening to this and you are in year 1-ish of business, please figure out your financial situation. It's less complicated, especially if you're listening and you're a solopreneur. You're maybe thinking about hiring that first person, outsourcing, 1099, whatever that looks like. Get clear on your money situation now. Everyone, if you don't understand, if you don't have a process and you're not confident with it, understand now where you're at, okay? The bigger your business goes, the bigger the money problems are. You have more taxes that you pay. If you probably have more team members that you have to deal with. If you're in the product space, guess what? Humble pie right here. Every time you sell product, part of that profit, the money you make off selling stuff, goes back into buying more product. So just because you had a launch that sold $10,000 doesn't mean you come home with $10,000. You also have taxes on top of that. The cost of the goods that you made, the time that went into it. There's so many things to think about. And I think we have this misconception that like we'll figure out the financial stuff once we make more money. If you don't do it now, you're going to be struggling for a long time. So I encourage you, whether big or small, I don't care. If you don't understand your finances, find a way to. And what does that mean? Get clear, get laser focused. How much is going in? How much is going out? How much debt do I have? If I have business debt and every month I have money coming in and it feels like there's a leak, that's your leak. If you think of a bucket, right? If your business is a bucket and every month you have money coming into the bucket, but also some of that is going out to your costs. And some of that, if you're really good and you're doing your Kelsey homework, maybe you're saving some for taxes or paying your taxes, depending on what industry you're in and the time of year, right? And then some of that money is coming out of the bucket to pay you personally. Awesome. But if you have business debt, money you owe in your business, your bucket automatically has more depth to it. It has a hole in it. So no matter how much money is coming in, it is filling that deficit. So it does feel like a leak because there kind of is one. And if you don't understand how much that is, how much are those minimum payments? What does that interest look like? If you're just putting your blinders up and ignoring that, you're just going to constantly feel like you can't get ahead. And it's because you don't have a plan and process in place. So the more money you make does not mean it disappears. I would argue the bigger the businesses I see who have financial issues, they're just more complicated financial issues. And it all starts from this basic understanding of what's going on. Then point number 3, if you don't define what good or profitable means, how will you ever know if you got there? I'm going to end on this note here. I had a client recently who's in the product space. You guys listen. Most of my clients are service-based. That's the world I come from. That's my niche. But just guess what? Just because you niche doesn't mean you repel people either. I work with this awesome product-based company, small business owner who launches products a lot. And we were talking about it. And this person said something to the effect of like, well, I don't know if this is going to be a good launch. And I was like, well, what does good mean? And we actually sat and we calculated out how much cost really went into this launch. Like how much product did this person buy? We got clear on what that number was. And then we set goals. We also figured out, okay, knowing how much this person sells these different products for in the inventory, we were able to math out what's the if she sold every single item in the store, every single piece, what would be the absolute maximum they could bring in from this launch? We came up with that number. Knowing the cost, knowing the absolute maximum revenue opportunity here, we set goals somewhere in the middle. And guess what? This person blew those goals out of the water. And I was like, after the launch happened, we had our meeting and I was like, how did it feel to know with clarity that the revenue you brought in was beyond the goals we have set? So yes, it was a good launch because we defined what good meant. We actually had good, better, best goals. So if you're listening to this and you're overwhelmed, I'm sorry, but you're going to feel so much better once you find a way through. If you're listening to this and you have an accountant or an EA that you're working with and you're not feeling like you're getting that financial support, ask. Just ask. They work for you. At the end of the day, you pay them for a service. They work for you. If you don't understand what's going on, ask for clarity. Ask if you can have a different report. Ask if you can have a monthly meeting where you go over it together. You have to be your advocate in this space. And if you're struggling, it starts with you finding the right people to support you through it. So I encourage you to really dig into your money. Money can be so powerful when you just know what's going on. It can help you make decisions and adjustments as you need in your business. And you as the boss, that is your job title that you get to hang on to for a long time. So I encourage you to face your finances. If you're needing extra support in this money conversation is something we're going to continue on inside Get Shit Done Club. It's my online community. You can find us on Facebook called Get Shit Done Club, or you click the link in the show notes today. I would love to have you join us. We do a live call every week, and we're going to talk about money coming up. So I definitely would love to see you inside there. Thank you so much for listening, and do yourself a huge favor. Carve out some time and face your money stuff. All right. Thank you.